Welcome to Turning the Page. Turning the Page.
Keep listening.
Hi, everyone, listeners. Good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Turning the Page. Here we have Jason Perry, the mayor of Croydon, and we are going to ask him some questions about his job and time in his life when he's turned the page. So please, can you tell us a bit about yourself, Mr. Perry?
Just a bit about me. So
Yeah.
Jason Perry, I'm the elected mayor of Croydon. I've been that since May 2022, so I'm 3 years into the job. I'm the first elected mayor of Croydon, so that's a new thing for Croydon. Essentially, I'm the leader of the council, so the leader of the place of Croydon, and I'm directly elected by the residents of Croydon. And prior to that, I've been a local councillor. I was the leader of the opposition at the council for a couple of years, and I've actually been a local councillor since 1994. So I've been an elected councillor for quite a long time, representing sort of South Croydon area really over the years. So that's been my political career.
Yeah. So, what inspired you to run for mayor of Croydon? Like, how has your vision evolved since taking office?
So what's inspired me, I guess I'm a Croydon boy, born and bred. It's my hometown, and Croydon's been through a lot of difficulties in recent years. And as I say, I've been a councillor for a long time. I've watched a lot of that happen as opposition, and I wanted to, with the mayoralty coming along, I wanted to have the opportunity to get my hometown back on the map for the right reasons and start fixing some of the problems about Croydon. So that's what I wanted to do. That was what I kind of offered to the electorate. I was fortunate enough to be elected, a great privilege to be elected, and since then been working really hard to make those changes to Croydon, so that we do get back on the right path, look after our borough, restore pride in our borough, and be proud of where we live and where we work.
So, what do you see as your biggest achievement so far, and what challenges have been the hardest to overcome?
So the hardest challenges are finances, sadly, because a lot of our money comes in the form of government grant. It comes from council tax. Some of it comes from business rates. So the finances are the most difficult thing, and we have a lot of challenges. We have a lot of money to pay out on adult social care, children's social care, special educational needs, homelessness, really expensive areas, and huge demand on councils, Croydon, but across London as a whole. There's a huge amount of demand. So they're the biggest challenges, and we're really trying to meet those challenges head on. And we've got a big debt burden in Croydon. So the previous councils borrowed lots of money, and we don't have any assets to back that up. So normally, if you borrow money, you might, a mortgage or something, you'd have your house, you've got assets. So as a council, we've got this big debt, £1.6 billion of debt, but we don't have the asset base to back that up. And that's costing £70 million a year in interest, just to pay the interest on the debt we have. And that's money that we could be spending on services. So a real big problem, the challenge that we have there. So that said, we're doing lots of things. We're investing in the borough. We're investing in playgrounds. We're investing in fixing potholes. We've got a new street cleaning contract. So with the resources we're trying to make the best we can and make a difference.
So, what do you see as your biggest achievement so far?
Biggest achievement? I suppose probably the biggest achievement has been around the planning area. There's a lot of contentious planning applications happening in Croydon, and we changed the planning policy and we changed how that happened. We had lots of family homes being knocked down, and we kind of stopped that process. So that's been one of the biggest areas. I guess cleaning up, starting to remove graffiti, starting to clean up the borough, starting to make us feel proud of the borough. And it's been this morning. I've just been round in Norbury and South Norwood, and it's great to see actually that the place is looking cleaner and tidier, and that we are making a difference.
So, how do you envision the borough of Croydon, say 15 years from now? Do you want anything to change, or like, what do you want to keep?
Well, I think there's a real focus on the town centre and getting the town centre moving. So we've just launched the Croydon Growth Plan this week. We had a big launch event at Box Park earlier in the week. And I've been working with one of the deputy mayors of London on the London Growth Plan. And there's a lot in there about Croydon. Now we've got our own Croydon Growth Plan. And that's really important about bringing investment into Croydon. And that will bring new homes, it'll bring new jobs, and make a real difference to the town centre. And what that will do is drive our local economy. It will bring more income into the town, better paid jobs, etc. And then that will benefit the whole town, because it will be providing that employment that we need, that better education that we want for our young people, and that's a real driver. And I think for the rest of the borough, we want, there's lots of unique areas in Croydon, South Norwood, Upper Norwood, Norbury, Purley, Coulsdon, very distinct areas, and maintaining those areas and their distinctiveness and their character, but looking after them and make sure that they're the best that they can be, and investing where we can.
So, can you tell us a time in your life when you've turned the page?
I guess one of the big times was actually deciding to run for Mayor of Croydon. That was a big page turner for me, because by doing that, I knew that I was putting myself up for a job that was going to be a very difficult job. If I won, I knew it was going to be a really difficult task to turn Croydon around. I knew that I owned my own business. I knew that I would not be able to spend time in my own business, because my time would be spent running the council. And also the impact on you personally, on a personal level, on a family level, and the time that it takes you away from your family. There are some sacrifices that go with that. So I think that's a real page turner, and making that decision was one that I thought really hard about.
So, what advice do you have for kids who want to get into politics?
Sorry, say that again?
What advice do you have for kids?
What advice?
Yeah.
My advice would be have an interest in politics, get involved, get involved in local parties or whatever you want to do, get involved in your community. But if you really want to get involved in politics, I think my advice is get your personal life, your career, yourself sorted first. So have a good job, have a good career, do what you want to achieve in life, and then kind of go into politics would be my advice. Because, there's a lot to learn in life, and if you get involved in politics too early, you don't learn enough. You just become involved in a bubble, and you don't have enough life experience, I don't think. So my advice would be go out there, enjoy life, have fun, have a good career, friends, family and all those things, and then get involved in politics.
So what do you want listeners to take from this podcast or interview?
What lessons to take? Work hard, invest in your area, be part of the community, get involved, be proud of where you live, take responsibility for where you live, where you work, and be an integral part of society.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
So, I guess in saying turning the page, we kind of have a metaphor for what you've done or what you're attempting to do within the community. I think it's really interesting when you think about Croydon, right? Like, it's a really diverse borough. It's got lots of different people, and lots of those people are people from migrant communities, right? And this is something that's really pertinent in the news. Mm-hmm. And I guess the question is, I think a lot of people in these migrant communities certainly feel a bit concerned in terms of the conversation around migration. Yeah, I think a lot of communities that have kind of have migrated here, kind of definitely feel concerned, especially when, you know, Keir Starmer's sort of saying things, talking about containing migrants to kind of bolster British-born people's job prospects. I think certainly for a lot of people, I can speak for myself, that come from our second generation migrants, we feel included within the kind of otherness, right? In the language. I mean, what would you say as a mayor of Croydon to those migrant communities?
So I think in Croydon, I think we're in a really fortunate place because Croydon is a place that has been home to migrants for many, many years.
Yeah.
You know, you go back to the 50s, the 60s.
Yeah.
You know, Croydon has had migration, inward migration, for
Yeah.
many, many years. And I think we're very fortunate that we have very mature relationships between all our different communities here in Croydon. And that's changed over the years. You know, in more recent years, we've seen more Eastern European people coming in. So we've seen a whole raft of different people, you know, hundreds of languages spoken in Croydon. So we are a very diverse borough. But I think we celebrate that as a borough. You know, we have our differences, but kind of what's different makes us stronger, and having respect for one another. You know, we do a lot of work with faith communities and all different faiths that we have in Croydon, and people of no faith. So there's so many different levels of communities. But I think that the fact that we have had migration for so long, and we are a very diverse borough, we do have those mature relationships between groups, between communities. I think we're quite integrated as a borough between our communities.
Is there any sort of specific kind of any specific things or specific policy that is to kind of make sure that there aren't kind of any basically racist narratives that start to circulate?
Yeah, so as a council, we have anti-racist policies,
Yeah.
not just, you know, we're not, you know, it is anti-racist. We are, you know, we're just not going to tolerate racism. So as a council, we have that, and we work with our partners across the borough, employers, education, you know, various other people to take on the same values about anti-racism, and that we're not going to accept it, and when we see it, we're going to raise it and we're going to stop it, etc. So again, that's quite well established, I think, within Croydon. I guess there's always going to be pockets of racism, and there's always going to be pockets of issues. You know, nothing is ever perfect. But when I look around in other parts of the country and I see some of the issues between different groups that you see on the news and you see on the TV, and even not that far away in London, you hear stories of different groups kind of clashing, and we don't really have that in Croydon. I think we're a very tolerant borough, and a borough that really comes together and celebrates together and works together.
I mean, I think Croydon's sort of it's very split, right? I think people get along, but I think there's a sort of a big demographic, sort of north to south difference, right?
Yeah, I mean, kind of north-south divide. You know, I guess people would look, the south's affluent and the north's poor. I think the reality is that there's pockets of affluence and poverty in the whole borough. You know, if you go south, the Tollers estate, as an example, is one of the most deprived estates in the country. Go north, you've got pockets of affluence.
Sure, I mean,
it's a mixed. You're right. There is a kind of a north-south, and as mayor, I've really tried to kind of break that north-south divide down, because we're one borough, we're one people, we're all Croydonians, and I you know, my family and my aunts and uncles, I spent a lot of my youth in the north of the borough, in Thornton Heath and Crystal Palace, and you know, they're great places to me, and I look at the whole borough, and I want to look after the whole borough and make things work for the whole borough. So I'm trying to move away from this kind of north-south divide. But you're right, there are clearly different areas in the borough.
You know, what informs, you know, what I'm trying to say is, you know, I went to school I went to Wilson's, right, just outside Croydon.
Yeah.
But it was, you kind of I traversed that thing from coming from Lambeth and through Croydon and there. And, that was, a long time ago. But, at the time, there were people with swastika tattoos getting on the 154 bus. And there was a feeling of insecurity, right? And some of the kind of anti-migrant narrative that's not just in the press here, but also in America and so on, reminds me of that feeling.
Yeah.
So, I guess the question was, is there any sort of visible increase, push to kind of counter that feeling, or is or not,
So I suppose from a council perspective, I mean, a lot of these issues are kind of national issues, and they're being played out in the national press. And at a local level, I don't have control over those narratives, and I hear those narratives as you do. And I think there's some really dangerous narratives around at the moment that are really work on people's fears and it almost incite people's fears, and that's dangerous stuff, and not something that I condone from whichever, be it left, right, whatever it is of the political spectrum. It's not good stuff, because it does, as you rightly say, it kind of brings to the fore worries, concerns, fears about what may have been in the past or what might be coming in the future. I guess what we have to do at a local level is make sure that we have policies that are anti-racist, that make sure that we involve everybody in what we do, that the policies we have as a council are not just about one group of people, one race of people. It's about all Croydonians and having the best for Croydon. So, the growth plan, for example, is not about, let's just make sure that this group prospers and we're not worried. It's about everybody in the borough. It's about having good job prospects for everybody in the borough, about having good educational opportunities, about having well-paid jobs in the borough, giving people the opportunity to go to education, go to London South Bank University in the town centre, go to Croydon College, whatever it may be, get those educational opportunities, working with our local employers to find out what jobs they need so that we're educating people with the right skills.
I would say, are there sort of specific incentives to kind of attract employers as part of the growth plan back into Croydon or Croydon Town Centre?
Yeah, so we very much want, we've got some big, we've got people like Mott MacDonald, big international engineering firm, their HQ's in Croydon. Liverpool Victoria Insurance, their HQ's in Croydon. So part of the growth plan is we want to get some of these major employers back into Croydon. We want to attract major employers from other areas. So we need to create the environment where they want to be based in Croydon. We've got the connectivity to London, to Gatwick. We've got amazing green spaces. We've got heritage. We've got history. We've got culture. We've got music. We've got education. We've got everything you could possibly need here in Croydon. So if you're running a big business and you need an HQ, come and base your HQ in Croydon, because we've got amazing facilities, amazing opportunities, great people. Everything's here that you need.
So would those incentives be like rent reliefs, rate relief?
Sadly, I wish it were. I wish I could just say, we'll do rate relief or all those things. But the reality, particularly with business rates, is the council collect business rates, but effectively we're collecting them on behalf of the government. So the government set business rates. We have no control over them. And essentially a third come to the council, a third goes to the Greater London Authority, and a third goes to the government of business rates. And if we, as the council, say, I'm going to give you a year rate free, I still have to, the council, still have to give the Greater London Authority and the government their cut. So in actual fact, we would be paying money out to other parties in order to give rate relief to businesses. So the only way we can do rate relief is if the GLA and if government agrees to do it with us. So we do have a thing in Croydon called the growth zone. which isn't about rate relief for business, but it's about where we're able to keep more of the rates locally to then invest in the local infrastructure. So we can invest it in, for example, Wellesley Road. We're going to be putting a new pedestrian crossing in on Wellesley Road, closing the underpass permanently, investing in the public realm of North End, which is looking pretty tired and horrible at the moment, and it needs a real uplift. So there's going to be £10 million invested into North End. So it's kind of it's those things. So rather than giving rate relief or rent relief, we're creating the environment, a good quality environment for you to come and trade, open your shop, do your business, and to improve the connectivity, so that you're well connected to other business, other trade. So I guess the biggest control the council has is over the environment, is the place of Croydon. And if we can create the right environment in which your business can flourish, then that's, I think, what we need to kind of concentrate on.
Well, I agree. I think with housing being such big business, are there any sort of kind of rezoning type moves that are part of the growth plan?
So there is going to be more residential in the town centre. So we've already seen a growth, probably about 10,000 people more living in the town centre now than 10 years ago. So there's already been a massive increase in residential in the town centre, and we will see more of that. So the Whitgift centre, as we know it at the moment, they're looking at plans around 2,500 residential units going on to elements of the Whitgift centre. So there is going to be more residential in the town centre. So it's not a zoning thing as such, but there will be more resi. At the moment, a lot of that is private rented. As a council, we are trying to invest in social housing. So Regina Road, which isn't very far from where we're doing this podcast, we had the terrible conditions in Regina Road, and we're investing as £166 million regeneration project going on there, and we've started the demolition works on the first block that had all the issues with damp and mould. So that literally is coming down as we speak. So we're investing with Zodiac House down in West Croydon. We bought that recently. We're using it as temporary accommodation. So yes, we've got resi coming, a lot of it private rented, but we're also looking at how do we improve social housing. We're investing in social housing to improve social housing across the borough.
Can I ask a question?
Of course you can.
How does it feel being an elected mayor of the most diverse place in London, with all what's going on? Because you've done amazing things in this borough already. We've seen the change, and it's what people have voted for. But for young people, how does it feel to know that you've made such an impact after being voted for by your community? Because you're the first one that's really unique. There's no other borough that's had an elected person, is there?
Well, there are five. There are five in London.
Okay.
So,
but yours is one of the biggest, isn't it?
So Croydon is the largest London borough. So I am the mayor of the largest London borough. There are five across London, 33 boroughs, 5 mayors. Everywhere else has leaders. It's a great privilege to be elected, and I really feel that in my soul. This is my hometown, and I really do view it as a privilege. And I feel very proud of what we have achieved. And so much has been done that you almost forget some of it. You need to sit down and remind yourself of the different things that have been done. So yeah, it's a privilege. I feel very proud. It's a huge challenge. It's a huge responsibility. I'm very conscious that people have elected me to do a job. Clearly, lots of people, it's lovely that you feel I'm doing a good job, but lots of people feel I'm doing a really bad job. So you kind of have to tackle all that stuff as well. So it's, but yeah, it's a real honour, and we've got so much to do, and you just can't. It's quite easy to break a place, and to allow it to decline and to allow it to run down. But to actually halt that decline, turn it around, invest, get people to believe in a place again, and actually rebuild a place takes many, many years longer to actually do that. So, I'm 3 years in. we've achieved a lot. We're on a journey of improvement. We've got a long way to go. And, you know, I'm just getting going, really.
That's what I
there's
thought.
so
So
much
I'm
more
like,
to do.
okay, so
Yeah.
we're going to have another election soon.
Yeah, next year.
Yeah,
May next
what's
year.
the plans?
Yeah,
What
well,
are the plans?
I'm standing for election. I want to, you know, I hope the people of Croydon will re-elect me. You know, we've had a great start. We've made some real big differences. We're moving ahead. There's a lot more to be done. Regeneration of the town centre, you know, that sort of thing takes years, decades. And I want to see some of these things through. We've spent a lot of time, particularly within the council, of sorting out the governance of the council, sorting out how the council operates, making the council more effective. You know, it's a very broken organisation when I came into office. And, you know, getting our staff to believe in us again, you know, it's, and they do. And they've been on a real journey. And I think you know, people that work for the council were really traumatised by the whole bankruptcy and everything that went wrong, and felt very let down. You know, a lot of them had worked really hard and felt very let down by what happened, what politicians did to our borough. And, you know, it's been a journey for them as well. And hopefully most of them, many of them now feel that they can be proud to say they work for Croydon again. You know, we're heading back in the right direction, but there's still a huge amount to be done.
Well, you've done quite a lot, and you're everywhere because young people know who you are.
Yeah.
And even different generations of people who know who you are. So well done to you. I think that's a turning the page moment. I hope that you survive the next election, and I hope that you come back here to talk to us about some of the more greater things that you're doing before, as you do them, because I think one thing that has been missing, we see a lot, but the young people don't get to ask those questions. We don't get to be a part of the processes between, you know, what you're doing. We see so much, and we're our heads were like underneath the ground, but we know what's happening. And I think that being the person that you are, being from Croydon, having people elect you're doing a wonderful job, and All Heads Recognise, we'd just like to thank you. Please come back, tell us what amazing more stuff you're going to do. We have noticed the changes with the cleanup. We can say that because we're right here on the corner. And yeah, I hope that in the next couple of years you can really get the town centre back to what it was, because I've been living in South Norwood since Woolworths. Yeah. So I'd really like to see that.
We all miss Woolworths.
Yeah,
don't
we do. We
yeah,
do.
we all miss
so,
Woolworths.
Yeah. So thank you, and I hope to see you in that.
Well, thank you very much for your
in a
kind
few more
words,
weeks.
and I'll definitely be back.
Yeah, thank you so
and
much.
Keep you informed of what we're doing.
Yes, please.
Thanks for sharing your time with us and giving us an insight into your career and how you run things around the borough of Croydon. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Turning the page. Turning the page.